What would you do if you were arrested in Myrtle Beach and charged with domestic violence while you were on vacation? Let me tell you a story about a guy I'll call George. Hi, I'm Greg McCollum, attorney and founder of the Complete Legal Defense Team here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. George was here on vacation, staying in a hotel with his wife, his mother-in-law, his brother-in-law, and his children. And he goes out with his brother-in-law, and they go out to a bar. They stayed out too late. His wife isn't happy about where he went, so he comes back home. She starts arguing with him because she's mad at him because he was out drinking, I guess, while she's home with the kids, but not home, but in a hotel. So one thing leads to another. He's arguing with his wife. His mother-in-law jumps in the argument, and his brother-in-law is there as well. And so what does he do? What do you do in that situation? You think it's a family argument, but what's going to happen is he's going to be arrested and charged with domestic violence. The reason he was arrested is because his 7-year-old daughter wakes up. She comes down the stairs. And the natural thing to do in a situation where you're in that fight argument is you want to take your 7-year-old daughter away from that. You want to get yourself away from that. You want to de-escalate it. So he does what's natural. He gets his daughter, he picks her up, he holds her, he comforts her, and he just walks out the door. So he's just going to leave and go a short distance away to let things calm down. Well, that's not good enough because now his wife is mad. She wants to argue with him. She wants to keep the escalation going because that's what happens when people are mad. And so she's following him down across the parking lot away from the hotel, and the police show up. Well, why do the police show up? Nothing's really happening. It's not illegal to be in an argument. Now, maybe somebody called the police. Maybe she called the police. But the police show up. So now what happens? Once the police show up, they're there to investigate. The presumption is that something illegal is happening and they need to arrest somebody. In every scenario where the police show up, their mindset is there's going to be a defendant and there's going to be a victim. So the other thing that happens when the police show up, in that situation, the wife starts thinking, based on the police questions, is something going to happen to her? George, who I call George, is thinking, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my daughter? What's going to happen to my wife? So you're also thinking, well, I don't want my wife and me to get arrested because now what's going to happen to our children? So one thing leads to another, and the wife implies or says something that he's assaulted her. She claims he threw like a bottle or glass of seltzer at her or something. The police look at her and they believe that she has a mark on her face under her eye. Nothing that requires medical attention, nothing that they have any proof that George even did it, but that's what they're looking for. They're looking to arrest somebody. They're actually charged in South Carolina with they're supposed to arrest somebody for every domestic violence call. Every single domestic violence call, they're supposed to, under the law in South Carolina, decide who is the primary aggressor and arrest that person and take them to jail. So now what happens? So George is determined by the police, which is fairly random and arbitrary, that he's the aggressor. How do they make that determination? It's a very faulty process, and the police have no idea what's going on, honestly. But they're there. They're not very patient. Sometimes they're aggravated, so they're going to arrest George. So what does that look like? So he tells George, turn around, put your hands behind your back. They cuff him. They take him, walk him to the patrol car. Usually it's something that's very embarrassing because there's usually multiple cars there. The blue lights are flashing. They sit out in the road, on the side of the road with the blue lights flashing. Maybe they stand him up by the car and talk to him for 10 or 15 minutes and eventually put him in the car and drive him to the jail. So he goes to the jail. What happens now? He's going to be booked into the jail. They're going to take all of his property from him. They're going to take his phone away from him, and he's going to spend the night in jail on a steel bed with a little thin, flimsy mattress. In the morning, he's going to go in front of a judge, and bond is going to be set. Now, at that point, if you're arrested for domestic violence and you don't have a lawyer there with you, and most people are not going to have a lawyer there with them, though you can if you're able to reach out and get a lawyer there in the morning. So what happens now? Well, in a domestic violence case, usually automatically there's a no contact order, which means that when George gets out of jail, he will literally not be able to go back to the hotel where he was staying with his wife and family. He literally cannot call her on the phone. He can have no contact with her. He can't reach out to her, or that violates his bond. Now, she's not restricted from contacting him, but if even she came to the jail to pick him up and drive him home and the police see that, he's violating the no contact order, so they have a basis to arrest him. Now, in some instances, the wives and spouses come to the bond hearing and say they want the charges dropped. That doesn't mean they're going to drop the charges. They're not going to drop the charges. And in some instances, the wife can come and say, I don't want a no contact order. This is a mistake. We weren't looking for this. The judge may agree with that or may not. But typically now, he gets out. He has to have a police escort to even go get his suitcase. His family has to make separate arrangements to travel back wherever they're from. He has to travel back wherever they're from. Legally, he's not even supposed to go back home with them. Now, it's a little hard to enforce because if he's in another state and South Carolina doesn't have jurisdiction over that, even though he's breaking the law by violating the bond order, it's hard for the state of South Carolina to do something about it. Now, if we're advising somebody, we'd say you're breaking the law. We would never advise you to do that. Some people disregard that, which I understand why, and that's what they do. So now what happens? Now he's going to have a court date. He may have to explain to his employer. Now, if he's got a job of any kind of importance, and all jobs are important, this is something that could cause him to lose his job, and now he doesn't have the income to hire a lawyer. He doesn't have the income to support basically two households while he's obeying the court order to stay separate and apart. So this is a real problem for people. Now, a good thing to do in that situation is to contact Complete Legal Defense Team. You can contact any law firm, but our law firm is set up for something we call arrest emergency. So if this happens to you, or it's happening right now as you watch this, call our law firm 24/7, talk to somebody. We'll have somebody at the jail in the morning and try to avoid that no contact order to at least solve that problem before it's created. If that's already happened, and then you hire us after that, we can go to court, usually within a few days, maybe a week or two, and get that order modified, assuming that George's wife wants it modified. If she doesn't want it modified, if she wants a no contact order, then it's going to stand. There's nothing we can do about it. So at that point, one or two things happen. There's a domestic violence court date, which is a separate court for these kind of charges. And if George's wife wants the case dismissed and she's in cooperation with us, we have her fill out an affidavit, fill out some forms, may have her actually go to her separate court date where they interview her and ask for the charges to be dropped. If the prosecutor is willing to do that and accepts that as a resolution, then the case could be over with right then. The case could be over with within a few weeks. It's dismissed. We show you how to get it expunged. We expunge the record, and it's just gone, dead, and buried, except for if it's on social media or something like that. Now, if George's wife doesn't want the charge dropped, then it's a much more lengthy process. Now it's the normal motions, normal court dates. Is it going to go to trial? Is the prosecutor going to pursue the case? Is his wife going to travel back from another state to actually testify? Because if they're going to have a trial, she has to come. And in that court, she has to come under her own power. She has to spend the money herself. The state's not going to fly her back to court on a simple domestic violence case. So she's going to have to make a hotel reservation. She's going to have to get off work. She's going to have to come to court. She's going to have to testify. Now, even if she does that, it doesn't mean that all hope is lost and he's going to be convicted, because the evidence will either hold up or not. And there's a lot of factors there. But that's basically what it looks like. That's what a domestic violence case arrest looks like in South Carolina and Myrtle Beach, is that the only thing that happened is George went out, came home, people in the house were unhappy, people were arguing, and he tried to do something positive by removing him from the situation, trying to remove himself, trying to protect his daughter. One thing leads to another. The police show up and everything goes bad. This is something that happens probably, if not every day in Myrtle Beach, certainly every week. It's something that we see all the time. If this unfortunate kind of circumstance happens to you and is threatening your career, your livelihood, your marriage, and all of those things, call us, reach out to us. We're the complete legal defense team. We defend the accused who have a lot to lose, and we're here and ready and able to help.